Gather your village people. Let's get into the Final Cut app and let me show you what the interface looks like. The first thing you're going to notice is it looks basic. It looks like nothing is happening. And I think it's just Apple trying to be as minimalistic as possible, but there's a lot packed in it. On the surface here, you see 4 buttons. The first one is the zoom. What I like about the zoom of this particular app is that the zoom is created with dolly track in mind. The movement of the zoom is in a very smooth and cinematic way. It moves with such stabilization and such maintenance of pace that some of these other apps do not have, which is why I like the zoom very much. Away from the zoom, you now have your white balance. If you click on the side here where you see fixed, it will give you a menu where you see automatic, you see daylight, you now see all of these other default white balance settings. Now, after this, you have the exposure slider. And then if you click on this auto, you will see another menu open where you have shutter. You can select your shutter speed here, and then you can select your ISO. Now, that exposure basically just carries your exposure triangle. That's what they did there, which is kind of ingenious if you think about it. The last button here is basically more like the aspect ratio. If you want it to be portrait, if you want it to be, right winged, if you want it to be left winged, if you want it to be unlocked so that it can be flexible anywhere you turn. Then you go to the top. On the top right, you see the settings wheel, right? You click on that settings wheel and then it brings this settings button. It starts with the preference. The preference, you have your codec. The codec here is HEVC H265. Then you have your formats. For the formats, you have up to 4K resolution, and I believe it scales even higher if your phone permits more than 4K. For your frame rate, you have up to 60 FPS for 4K, but the app actually goes up to 240 FPS depending on the format setting you're using, okay? Then when we get back here, of course, you have stabilization. Now, if you move from here, go to tools, you now have grid, you have level, basically your audio level and all the other levels, and then you have overexposure indicator. If you click on the overexposure and turn it on, you see this red now showing. It is showing the parts of the image that are overexposed. Then, of course, focus picking. The final thing here is the audio, where you can select your audio source. The interesting thing about this for me is on the top left corner here, where you have this camera button with these boxes surrounding it. If you click it, you see it brings this menu. Welcome to live multicam. Use live multicam to record with up to 4 devices at once. This particular feature enables you to connect up to 4 devices at once. So you have 4 different angles, all streaming to one device. The thing about this, however, is that you have to use an iPad. Use an iPad that has Final Cut Pro on it, and then you connect all these other devices to it, and they'll all be streaming in high quality, up to 4K resolution to that iPad